Hey, everybody, welcome in. Welcome in. Good afternoon. It is Monday afternoon. Guerilla Sports Off Ice brought to you by RefiJet. More on RefiJet in just a little bit. I'm Jesse Montano, going to be joined by the lovely Meghan Angley, noted Red Wings fan based on the outfit today. Going to be joined by her in just a moment. We're going to go over the Avs salvaging the end of the trip out East with a big performance against the Detroit Red Wings, who they'll be taking on tonight, and they're getting some reinforcements. We're going to unpack all of that and start to give some of our last final thoughts here on guys that are heading to Milan for the Olympics, like Brock Nelson, as his torrid pace just continues here for the Avalanche. All that and a lot more. Got a great episode for you guys. Do want to start by reminding you about our great partners over at Furniture Row. Look, I've been here since day one with Guerilla. We've had a lot of iterations of this set. By far, this is by a mile. This is the best setup we've had in terms of how it looks and how comfortable these chairs are. Furniture Row is a family-owned company that offers high-quality home furniture at an incredible value. You would not believe the power of an enjoyable, hassle-free shopping experience. People love being able to shop for their living room, dining room, and bedroom furniture all at one location. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a Furniture Row, but it's also really fun the way that they're split up. You can kind of walk from like a whole showroom that's about your bedroom to a whole showroom that's about your kitchen, outdoor furniture, all that good stuff. It is absolutely awesome. And today, Furniture Row has grown to over 100 locations across the U.S. in order to make shopping at Furniture Row something that works for everyone in every state. And they've built their business around three core values: terrific selection, unbeatable value, and a knowledgeable staff. People love shopping with the staff at Furniture Row because of their unbelievable and legendary industry-leading knowledge. It's real furniture. It's real value. Furniture Row. Hey, everybody, welcome in. Guerilla Sports Off Ice, going with the shorter transition, and now people don't have to hear me yell welcome to the show every time they listen to a pod. I'm Jesse Montano. She is Meghan Angley. We got Mark Robinson behind the glass, I believe, making his Off Ice Behind the Glass debut, I believe. So shout out to Mark, bringing everything to you guys here, making sure you can see us and hear us. This is Guerilla Sports Off Ice, brought to you by RefiJet. RefiJet can help you save around $150 every single month, all just soft credit pull and zero hassle. See if they can't help you save some money by refinancing your auto loan. More about RefiJet a little bit later. Meghan, how are you doing? I made the Red Wings joke, but I also told you this morning, you look very Valentine's Day. Great outfit for the start of February.
As soon as the calendar turned February 1, I said, it's time. Like Mariah Carey and Christmas.
Yes.
That's how I feel about the month of February and love.
It's just reds and pinks. Her closet flips over to reds and pinks.
Yes.
I love it. What's been going on? What'd you do with your weekend here as the Avs were finishing up their road trip?
Yeah, so I got to watch the game on Saturday, and then I did a Galentine's brunch on Sunday.
I saw that on your Insta.
And I went down to Colorado Springs afterwards to have dinner with my parents and see the dog again.
Nice. Oh yeah.
Obsessed with him.
How long is the dog?
They got him on Halloween.
Been here. Okay. All right.
Yep. So a couple months now, and he's had some, minor health stuff. So he's been in and out of the vet, but he's perfect.
Charlie's actually spent some time at the vet the last 36 hours himself. Got a little tummy ache. He's but he's doing better. He's got some antibiotics working for him now. But Charlie the wiener dog has had a little bit of a boo-boo tum-tum.
Okay.
As we call him around my house.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I will be praying for Charlie.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's get into this. Home and home? Is this a home and home, Meghan? It feels like the NHL has all but eliminated these from the schedule making. But here we are. Avs finish up in Detroit, 5-0 win. And they've got them again here tonight. Before we get into what's going on at Ball Arena tonight, where Cale Makar described what he thinks is going to be a playoff style game. The Avs went into Detroit, one of the top teams in the East. And after a couple of lackluster performances, that's Eric Johnson's word, not mine, a couple lackluster performances on the road, the Avs not only bounced back from the perspective that they got a win, they got the 2 points. they won handily. You had great performances from your top guys who you wanted to see a bounce back from. Mackenzie Blackwood gets the shutout. He was really, really good getting the start again tonight. Not only did they get the win, Megan, but they did it the way you want to win, which I think was needed after the games in Montreal and the game in Ottawa.
Yeah, hold on. I'm pulling up a stat. I just wanted to confirm it, but Mackenzie Blackwood took about 2 games before he returned to form at the start of the year when he came back in. And so I felt like the panic around Mackenzie Blackwood was a little bit premature because he did look a bit off in those first 2 games coming back from the most recent stint of injury. And I think the other thing too is just the larger concern around Mackenzie Blackwood, a guy who throughout his career does miss some time in the regular season. I think just his physique and playing style makes it hard to play a full, in goalie world, it's not 82 games. It's usually around 60.
Right.
And even in goalie world, I think just the way that he plays the position, it is hard on the body. It means a little bit of time off in the regular season. Basically, where I'm going with this is I think this is status quo. And I think Mackenzie Blackwood looking great is not a surprise to me. That's just him getting to his level that he's used to playing at.
Not to confuse goalie world with girl world or animal world.
In girl world.
Yeah, great scene at the
goalie
mall.
World.
No, and Megan, I think it's a good call out of we and he's talked to us about this of like it takes a couple games to get your timing back, to get your tracking of the puck and of the play, your anticipation back. And, we had JJ in here last week, our resident goalie expert. And, he was talking about like Mackenzie Blackwood is a unique combination of big and flexible and athletic. So, yeah, like you said, the way that Mackenzie Blackwood plays the position, maybe a little bit of wear and tear above average on the body.
So I was just going to say now that I had a chance to pull it up. It's been 5 games since his return and, picks up 2 wins, one of those being this most recent against Detroit and starting off the road trip against Toronto. So there have been 3 kind of shaky games for Mackenzie Blackwood. And I think it's worth noting to the rhythm of the schedule. So this also feels like he's being used as a starter and is getting back into that rhythm. I understand, though, why in those initial games it was still kind of juggling between Wedgwood Blackwood. But right now, from this point on, I would be concerned if they didn't use Mackenzie Blackwood as a starter now that he's back up to speed and get him into a rhythm.
I want to ask you a question.
And I want to clarify, too, like they've always, even going back to Georgiev, picked spots in the schedule where they plan to have the backup start anyways.
Right.
So I also kind of envision that being something they turn to more generously
for sure
with the trust in Wedgwood that he's built. But basically, unless he goes out of the lineup with another injury again, which, then I'd also be worried about that again. But I think this is the point in the season where I want to see him used as a starter.
So I was asked I was asked twice within a week. Once on Morning Cup of Hockey podcast on Daily Faceoff, and then once doing a radio hit in Montreal. If the playoffs started today, who would be the Avs starter? And I both times said, look, I think Jared Bednar is aligned in like you need to have a number one. You have to have, your guy that you go to. And so I said, I think it would be Mackenzie Blackwood. Like I think they would, if the playoffs started today, I think they'd go to Mackenzie Blackwood. Agree, disagree?
Yeah.
I don't. I think when it comes right down to it, I don't think there's much of a controversy as maybe some people would lead on, even though, yes, Scott Wedgwood has been very good. I think Blackwood's the number one, and I think they look at it that way as well.
I think so too. And so going back to when he did make that return from injury, there was a handful of days, like 5-6 days off in between. I don't think that was weird. I don't think that was a lack of confidence in Mackenzie Blackwood as their starter. I think it was a guy who's missed time gradually being brought up to game speed. And I feel strongly about that it's not been a question of is Mackenzie Blackwood the starter or not. at any point this season.
What's going on with Logan Thompson?
I don't know. This is another guy, and I don't think his playing style is quite the same, but he's dealt with kind of recurring injury throughout his career. As far as I understood, it was kind of day to day.
Do you see his Olympic headshot?
Have you seen all of them?
No, what is happening?
Some of them are normal, but most of them are weird.
What is going on?
They look like hostage situations.
Yeah. All right. Well, so it looks like he was skating today in Team Canada gear this morning. So, all right. So it looks like he's fine. Because that did get my gears turning on. I wonder if Scott or Mackenzie was going to get a call depending on the extent of this injury. But Logan Thompson was on the ice today in Team Canada gear. So there you go.
Feels like pretty pointed at you, Jesse.
Right. Yes. You know what? I did all of that and I got to the answer myself.
What's going on with Logan Thompson?
Oh, he's fine. Okay. Perfect. According to this photo right here, he's fine. All right. I wanted to talk about something else from not just the game in Detroit, but also the game in Montreal, even though it ended up getting away from them. Ross Colton breaks through in the game against Montreal and then again in the game against Detroit. Isn't it funny how this sport works, Megan? You go 20 games without being able to buy a goal. He did so many things well. And now 2 games in a row, finds the back of the net. And you can just see it on his face, the confidence coming back and just that bit of relief that, okay, got a couple to go. I'm not going crazy.
Yeah. And I feel for Ross Colton because you look at the process behind what he's been doing to try and create chances from the third lineup, right? Like even going back to when he was being utilized in that role before some of these injuries cropped up. And I think he was doing a lot process-wise that just wasn't getting rewarded. And you could see it, though, wear on his confidence a little bit. And I do think that takes away from the way that he impacts the game. It's not solely unique to Ross Colton, but it is kind of unique. He's an energy guy, and so confidence really does matter then when that is the type of player that you are. And where I'm going with this is, being elevated in the lineup, I think, is an instant boost to the confidence, but there's something to be said for the instant success that players who play alongside Brock Nelson have as well. And it wasn't always true at the start of this year when Nelson's own game was a little bit stagnant and he was working through that himself. They were trying out lots of different things. And I think since Brock Nelson's game has come alive, he's playing with a quieter confidence that is impacting his individual game, but everybody that he's playing with on a nightly basis. And then similarly, when Ross Colton has had the chance to play up in the lineup with him, I think that Brock Nelson's just elevating everyone around him at the moment, because what Ross Colton does to earn these goals is not so different from what he had been doing this whole time. And I'm glad to see him get rewarded. I'm glad too he doesn't stray from his game either in working through this difficult stretch. And because he is a player that thrives on the confidence, I imagine this will have really good forward momentum for him then moving forward. This is so important in getting the best out of Ross Colton.
Well, and we've talked in recent weeks about, if he does find his name out there, in trade rumors and stuff, it would be such a shame, even though you and I have both said, like, if you're sitting here asking me to run through the roster of who I think is most likely to be moved, my answer is unfortunately Ross Colton. And the reason that I say unfortunately is because as you and I have unpacked, it feels like he should be such a great fit. Like it feels like it should work so well with what you were just describing, the way Ross Colton plays, the way he competes, that hard-nosed style, plays a little bit on the edge, but has the skill when he needs it. It feels like it should fit. And I feel like, we had someone in the chat saying even the Ottawa game didn't think he looked terrible. When you see those types of games from Ross Colton, and then able to convert on the results, it's what makes you sit there and go, man, why hasn't this worked the way that it feels like it should be? Because he brings a ton of value. And I mean, geez Louise, I'll even take it a step further where if he could really play at that level, it gives you another option in your top 9 to keep things interesting. Maybe you do go prioritize a higher end 3C who can play with a guy like Gabe Landeskog because you really like what Ross Colton's given you next to Brock and Val. And obviously I'm just kind of speaking hypothetically here, but like if Ross can continue to give you that and produce, like it opens the door for another option if the exact right piece maybe isn't there. Okay, well, maybe we're going to go get another Charlie Coyle type, play him with Gabe on that third line. And suddenly we've now got, 3 lines that we feel really good about the pairings. And then, Ross Colton can play next to Brock Nelson or play with, new cool guy in Gabe Landeskog. Like, it's just
new cool guy.
Ross Colton playing like this and producing opens the door for options and makes you second guess about, do we move this guy? Because you see that he can be effective.
Yeah. And I think the question of the season is, can he continue to translate that success to a third line role, even with the talent sometimes revolving? And what's interesting to me is in seeing the talent revolve around Brock Nelson's line and him still finding success, I do think that it's possible for Ross Colton. It's just challenging because he's not necessarily driving from the middle the same way that Brock Nelson can have that impact on his own line. And similarly, this is also, a 4-game point streak from Val Nichushkin, who's playing quietly, really good hockey. And I think it's the work that Brock Nelson, Nichushkin, and Ross Colton, what they do together is very complementary. And so it's the relentless forecheck and pressure then that there's going to be a second layer that is coming at you to battle for pucks that makes it difficult for teams to contend with, whether it's Ross Colton on his back, Val Nichushkin, or Brock Nelson. They're all coming at the puck carrier in waves. And so it's difficult to contend with. It's difficult then to imagine when you break that up, you lose a little bit of that. Like, what is Ross Colton then away from Brock Nelson, Val Nichushkin? How can you continue to get him to be as effective? And that's where, I think that guys like Parker Kelly, Jack Drury, just kind of in that bottom 6 conversation, they have a playing style that's like that. But I just don't think they've married it for Ross Colton to be that perfect mix of the skill. Like Brock Nelson obviously just has that natural goal scoring instinct, as well as everything that he's doing, I think, being more engaged in some of these battles to make that line dangerous. I just don't think they've married that skill set then on the third line to complement Ross Colton in the same way. And that's where I'm still not sure what the fit is, but it's hard to deny that he can play up in your top 6 as needed. And injuries, as we've seen, like with Nazem Kadri in the Avs Cup run, those kinds of injuries do crop up. It's important to have a guy that you trust there.
Megan, that's a great point. And again, someone mentioned like, the other thing that is maybe working against Ross Colton being able to stay in Colorado is he does have an AAV, that hits the cap that does make it, more palatable, money in, money out if you're making like a real, just a hockey trade. But I think that's a great point you just made. Like, you're going to need someone for at least a handful of games in the playoffs. If your plan is to go 4 rounds deep, someone in your top 6 is going to have to miss a couple games. Like that's just reality. We see it every year, and you need to shuffle things around. It's the reason they've referred to it as the war of attrition. And having a guy like Ross Colton that you can feel pretty confident about, like, hey, if we need this guy to moonlight on a second line here for a game or two, we feel pretty good about that. So that's just another tough thing that, when you're considering all these options, you sit there and go, gosh, do you really want to trade a guy like that? Because he does bring great value, and it's just so easy to see it when he's playing like he has been these last couple games.
Yeah, I think this would be a trade maybe different from others, like in looking back at the Cup year, because it's so easy, right? Those were highly valued prospects like a Justin Barron or a Drew Hellison that helped to bring about the return for necessary pieces for that Cup run. This is different. This is a roster player who does fit culturally, stylistically right now. And so you're not moving on from a guy whose window maybe isn't going to line up with your teams, or whose stylistic fit, you got to talk yourself into it a really specific way.
Right.
The only thing that is kind of hurting him right now is the difficulty getting the success to translate on that third line role. because I think honestly this is kind of similarly an issue he ran into in Tampa. Like, I think he is a top 6 player on a lot of teams. It's just hard on the Colorado Avalanche and, at the time in their dynasty era, Tampa. And so I think he also views himself in that way and feels inspired and confident when he's getting to play up in the lineup. And it's just harder for him to be flexible. And I don't even think he's like consciously doing it, to hold himself back in any way. I just think that's the challenge for Ross Colton.
Like this guy's probably playing on Connor Bedard's wing if he's in Chicago. And Chicago's a little bit of an extreme example because they're really thin.
Don't do that to our guy, Ross Colton.
but I'm just kind of, proving your point of like, there's plenty of teams around the league that would be confident with him playing in a bigger role. And there's certain teams that would probably be like, hey man, we'd love you like way up in the lineup, just, with the way that things are constructed. Real quick, you mentioned Tampa. Did you watch the Stadium Series game at all? No? Fantastic game. I normally, honestly, Megan, like it's gotten to the point where a lot of the outdoor games, unless it's a team I'm really interested to see, what the outcome of that game is, like, or two teams that like, oh, these are two really good teams. I'll tune in to see the visuals of the outdoor game. How did it come out looking?
Right.
But then I turn it off, turn away. They've gotten to the point where they're usually not great games. They're really cool for those fan bases and the people that are there, but like they're really not great hockey. The game got to 5-1, and I was like, "Yep, this is classic outdoor game. Scores way out of control. Just not entertaining." And then Andre Vasilevsky and Jeremy Swayman get into a fight.
I did
and it's
see
like,
that.
All right, well, this is kind of fun again. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning come back and win 6-5 in a shootout. Like it ended up just being a really fun game. And I can't remember who it was that said it this morning, just in the media room, but I completely agree. I thought it was a good day for the league. Like I thought that was a good game for the league. Played at a really cool venue. They did a good job. It was played at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium, so they have the big, crashed pirate ship there. And then the game ended up being fantastic. You had a goalie fight, you had a 4-goal comeback, you had a shootout. It was a really fun, entertaining game, and I thought that was a, no pun intended, but like it felt like the league caught lightning in a bottle a little bit with that outdoor game. I thought kind of like revived them a bit of like, hey, here was a big marquee game that ended up with an awesome result and a goalie fight and just all kinds of stuff. And I thought it was good. Any casuals that were watching that game are coming back for another NHL game. You know what I mean?
John Cooper looked
so
swaggy.
I couldn't believe it because I saw the team come in dressed as Tampa Bay Buccaneers players, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the coaches until I was watching the game. And then it cuts to him like, and John Cooper, the head coach of Team Canada, and it cuts to him. I was like, what is going on?
That's John Cooper?
Right, with the chest hair showing and the gold chain. I was like, oh man, just dripping up there. So no, again, like I said, I just thought as a lover of the game, I enjoyed that game yesterday because I said you created a new fan. At least one new fan out there watched this game and was like, holy shit, this is what the NHL is about?
Right.
I got to be back for more of this.
I was really glad to see Swayman in the mix with the goalie fight because he's been one to talk about it, and you can tell he's been itching to do it. So glad he found it.
When he saw Vasi coming down, I mean, he bolted. He like got away from the refs. Like, yep, I'm not letting them break this up.
That was my chance.
Yeah. And it was my favorite. Like, it was the most like hockey NHL thing ever because the goalie fight was the first fight that broke out. So the goalies were just assessed 5-minute majors. Well, goaltenders can't serve their own penalties. So the goalies got in a fight and then just picked their gear up and got right back in the net, right back into the game. And at one point, Jeremy Swayman had 2 players in the penalty box serving penalties for him. A 5-minute fighting major and then a puck over glass. 2 Jeremy Swayman representatives in the penalty box. I thought it was great.
Wow.
But for not to keep going on, but 7 straight penalties for the Bruins. They were just, it felt like they didn't want to win the game. And they were all like egregious penalties too. Pasternak and McAvoy were really mad by the end of the game that they had so many penalties called against them. But it was like,
well, did you do it?
What do you want them to do? Like you're like, they were just, And Ray Ferraro on the broadcast was commenting like, this is the most penalized team in the league, and this is what they like: blatant hooking penalties, blatant slashing penalties, puck over glass. And it's like, you're not doing yourself any favors with the refs. Like, there haven't even been any borderline ones that they could let go here. Crazy game. I thought it was a ton of fun. Sorry, you said Tampa, and that was everything that was in my brain.
That's all right.
But yes, Ross Colton may be a victim of the fact that you are playing for two teams that are right in the middle of cup pursuit eras. And yeah, it's hard to move up the lineup in those instances. All right. Looking to tonight, the Avs are going to look for Ross Colton to keep that going, as both Marty Netchis and Gabe Landeskog remain out. Megan, Taylor McCarr will remain in the lineup. Great run that he's been able to be on here, by the way. A lot of valuable games for him. But they will be getting Devon Toews back in the lineup tonight. Huge for the Avs. Keaton Middleton does get reassigned back to Loveland. But Megan, the Avs have been without Devon Toews for about a month. And you could tell from the way that Cale Makar was talking, Sam Linsky was talking, and Jared Bednar, they are very, very ready for Devon Toews to get back in this lineup here.
Yeah, I think they've managed without him, but they haven't thrived. And it punctuates just his importance because of how well-rounded he is as a player. And I think that's what everyone kind of shouted out about him today at morning skate in talking about what it means to get him back in the lineup. I think the way that he supports Makar on the breakout, they have such a familiarity having played with each other so long too. They understand, when there's maybe a weaker moment, a vulnerability, and how to best support each other better than anyone. And so I just think, you can't take that for granted. Then I think you see just their possession game get better overall because they're breaking out the puck, transitioning play more cleanly, safely. And it's Devon Toews that I think is a huge reason it works on that top pairing. And then similarly in his own end too, just one of the best defensive sticks in the league. And so just those little details too, I think improve, get cleaned up. I think that limits the time then in your own end on the whole, just because of his ability to break up plays with just a stick alone. So on the whole, it just makes everyone a little bit better too, because then you're spending less time in your own end. Your goalie's a little bit less stressed out. Mm-hmm. And it gives your guys more opportunities to create the way that they'd like to in the offensive zone. In looking at the last game between Detroit, I think that the Avs, it was unique. They were limited in the shots battle just a little bit. It was neck and neck. But I found that interesting too, that Detroit tried to sustain that pressure through the entire game, despite it obviously they were going to get the winning result. But Detroit tried to stay in that game. And so they limited Colorado's chances, but Colorado's still able to come up with really high quality chances. So I think they'll want to get back to, creating at the same quality, but producing at a higher clip, higher volume as well. And honestly, I think just getting more of the lines going and all that links back to Devon Toews is where I am going with this. I think that then the pairs are going to be a little bit more balanced because I felt the Malinsky-Makar pairing was fun, but it's effective in a different way. It's just kind of a dual threat offensively, whereas I think that you can distribute the offense with Malinsky elsewhere in how he's utilized on the back end in a way that is still, going to be a threat on the offensive side of the puck, but now everybody's just a little bit better defensively.
Mm-hmm. It's that, and I can't remember. Oh, I'm sorry. It was Eric Johnson on the Avs Red Wings broadcast that was on ABC, said that Devon Toews is the Avs' best all-around defenseman. And he's just a steadying force back there. And, you've talked about it a couple times. I can't remember which shows. Recently, you've mentioned the composure that Cale Makar talked about last year in the Dallas series. And I actually think, Megan, that was what it was. You were mentioning it in our post-game show after the Montreal game of, the Avs maintaining composure and, trying to get back in, or needing to do that, better. And I do wonder how much a guy like Devon Toews, whose play is such a steadying presence, can have an effect on that in the same way that, like, we hear so much about Gabe Landeskog knows the right thing to say at the right time. Devon Toews is just like exemplifies calm when he's on the ice. And I do wonder how infectious that is.
Yeah, I think that it rubs off on Kale in a lot of ways, who I do think is a very mature player. That's not so much the issue. I just think going back to the trust that you've built with one another is where you see a more comfortability in Kale's game alongside Toews. And honestly, like, Kale's game, I don't think it's been bad by any stretch. I just don't know that he's been as dangerous as we're used to seeing him. And I wonder if some of that's feeling like he's playing the Toews role to Malinsky when they're playing together. And he is looking through the lens of trying to mitigate his own mistakes too, like not even pointing that at Malinsky. Whereas with Toews, I think there's such a trust that Toews is so responsible. There's that added layer of support then that you're worrying a little bit less about things breaking the wrong way when you're playing alongside Toews.
Yeah. And this is what's going to lead me into my next thought here. He's able to get a couple games in before heading over to Milan for the Olympics. Anything else that you want to get to on tonight, Devon Toews, etc.? I do find it interesting that both Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar made references to, hey, yeah, we're playing the same team back to back. When you play in the playoffs and you beat a team handily in one game, that next game is usually a big challenge. So I think the Avs are going to be ready for a big one tonight. And I do want to see good process tonight and Wednesday heading into the break.
Yeah, a couple of things that came to mind after we already pivoted away from conversations, but building on that, Nathan MacKinnon affirmed as much in his post-game interview with Eric Johnson. I think
that EJ got a spray tan. Yes.
Okay, I can't. EJ is so funny because then he very specifically talked about this spray tan place off Bucktail Boulevard. I worked there in college. I was like, whoa, you know ball. What's going on here? I'm checking the database. Like, you're definitely in the system.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, but then he said it was makeup. That's why I'm lost. You know what? You threw me off. I was going to talk about Nate's post-game comments, though. The real ones about how, yeah, this is a big win, but like his eyes immediately turn to how challenging it will be to play this game.
Yeah.
Because of playing the same team and the bitter taste it inevitably left in Detroit's mouth, too. Because I talked to DeBrincat at Red Wings morning skate today, and he said, like, we got smacked or we got smoked around. So they're not coming into this game, they're invested in the result. And so the Avs have to be prepared to brace for impact there. Going back to the Colton conversation, I was thinking back to the Anaheim game where I want to say it was Brindley who found him in the slot and he was denied by Dostal. And it's just like a grade A chance. There wasn't really much you could do. You just ran into a really great goaltender that night, right? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, in defense of whether it's been Brindley that he's played with, Drury that he's played with, I don't think if that pass had come from Brock Nelson off the wall, that the end result is different there. And I just wanted to emphasize that, with Ross Colton, I think he can find success on the third line, similar to what he's finding with Brock Nelson. I don't think what Brock Nelson is doing well cannot be replicated on the third line to help support Ross Colton. That's not to take away from Brock Nelson's game. I just think the way that Brock Nelson is complimenting Ross is by winning races to pucks, winning pucks, and being highly engaged. And that's something that, those third line guys, whoever it is, can do. So I want to believe that this can work for Ross Colton. I think this recent stretch has been a matter of confidence, because I just wanted to be clear. I'm not like taking side swipes at the talent on the third line having been the issue here. Just keying in on that play in the Anaheim game specifically.
Yeah. One
more thing. Sorry.
Yes.
One more thing.
No.
It was on the Mackenzie Blackwood front, coming up with some really big saves in the Detroit game when they had won it, handily. But it's protecting the shutout that I think is significant there, especially going back to my earlier point that Detroit did try to sustain pressure in the shots battle in this game, even though, it was a climb and it was a challenge. And Mackenzie Blackwood staying locked in is what gives me confidence in going back to saying he's the starter. that's Mackenzie Blackwood when he's on his game, and it's not as if you only see that in glimpses. That's when he gets to that level, he stays there. And I think it's a credit to who he is as a competitor too. It's not a question that he stays in that Detroit game late to secure the shutout, because he's not just, playing to win. He's playing for himself in a lot of ways too. And so that unique achievement of the shutout was weighing on him, and he looked like he was seeing everything.
Speaking of goalies,
finally, no, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
I love that. Speaking of goalies, and this is a total sideswipe, not sideswipe, but detour here. That just as I was pulling up the next thing I want to talk about, just do you have any quick thoughts on the Edmonton Oilers waiving Calvin Pickard?
I mean, I'm not plugged in enough to this situation, but my brain immediately got conspiratorial.
Right.
Is where I'm going with that.
Because like you said, obviously I'm not super privy to what's going on there, but like, I don't know that, and maybe they've tried to shop him. Maybe they've tried to get him some. That does feel a little dirty to do a guy like that played meaningful games for you in each of your last 2 runs going to the Cup final. When like Calvin Pickard was never the problem. Stuart Skinner was your starter. That was your guy. And man, it just feels like he's getting done a little bit dirty to get passed through waivers. And then, I'm sure he'll ultimately be reassigned. But an interesting approach to turning over that goalie tandem in Edmonton. No doubt.
I find it interesting because I've seen trades still born from a guy clearing waivers. Like, it was part of the terms of the trade to get them to clear first. And so what's interesting though is if other teams could have just claimed him for free at this point,
right,
it probably means he's not the highlight of the trade package. It's just an aspect of it. And so maybe there's still a merciful route here to give Pickard a different destination that results in a trade. I'm saying that in the weirdest way possible. But anyways, you guys get what I'm saying. I'm still not sure what to make of it. I hope it isn't as sinister and dark as it seems, because everything you hear about Calvin Pickard, just as a person, I would hope then they would do right by him as best they can.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like I said, he started his career here in Colorado. There's still a few lingering people around the media room that we know how what a great guy he is. So like I said, I was moving on to the next part of my topic list here, and I saw his name come across the screen. I just wanted your thoughts on it. All right, I just want to do a quick kind of temperature check, Megan, with I was distracted by another comment. This one right here. Apparently, Wallstedt is on the trade block.
I've seen that.
I've seen it a few places.
Nervous about that.
That was shocking to me, and apparently it comes from the fact that Minnesota's like, yeah, we really like the tandem. We really like Gustafsson. So we feel like we have some wiggle room here. And it's like, that just wouldn't be what I would do with a rookie goalie who's doing what Wallstedt's done this year. I found that really interesting. And again, sorry, I keep trying to get to the Avs Olympians, but yeah, this is another good call out. And given that the roster freezes tomorrow, we might see things get a little crazy here over the next 24 hours.
Yeah. My gut's like they won't do it, but it's out there because it's been considered in some capacity. I don't know how seriously. And I don't think you should move on from your young, talented goaltender, because the one that you have, like, Gustafsson's still young in my eyes, but he's actually maybe more like prime goalie age, I would say. I'm just looking at the situation Vancouver's in after moving on from Shilov's, and Thatcher Demko's, dealing with injury yet again. And I feel terrible for him, but I think that Shilov's is finding success in Pittsburgh. And I just would hate to see Minnesota make a similar mistake with a cautionary tale as recently as that one in their face.
27 for Gustafsson. Doesn't he feels older than
he feels older. So like 27's, young,
you're right.
Right. Hitting right where a good goalie would be at. But what's tricky is it's, an injury away from disaster, and a good backup's hard to find too. Like in talking about the 7C spot, how that's a tricky position to fill, because things can go sideways in playoffs, and you really have to love the depth in your goaltending too.
I mean, like, I just the 2 Florida teams have been the kind of flown in the face of this a little bit. But like a recent trend in the NHL has been like, yeah, you need a couple goalies to go the distance. Like you need to be able to, again, war of attrition. I'm with you. I thought that was a really interesting rumor that I saw out there. Okay, so we mentioned Devon Toews back in for the Avs tonight. Marty Netchis, Jared Bednar told us this morning they were hopeful, Megan, that he would be back in by Wednesday. Is still considered day-to-day. And then Gabe Landeskog skated again with the team this morning. And as of this after morning skate today, Jared Bednar did tell us that as of right now, it's February 2nd at 2:24 p.m. Mountain Time, that they do not foresee the Olympic Games being in jeopardy for either Marty Netchis or Gabe Landeskog. And Megan, I finally sent the tweet about it because I've now heard it in enough places, though Sweden nor the Olympic Committee, anything like that, no one has announced anything official, but it does sound like Gabe Landeskog will captain Team Sweden at the Olympics. So that's awesome for him. And then Nate, Kale, obviously we're familiar with where their game is at right now. The one Olympic, I guess there's a couple, Lecky and Kiviranta, both set to go. The one other name I haven't mentioned, which is where we're going to start to wind things down a bit for this show, is just give a couple more thoughts here on Brock Nelson and the strong play that has continued. Is it 29 is he at right now? Or is he still at 28 goals? Either way, rapidly
28.
approaching. He's at 28 right now. With 2 games to go, it is far from out of the realm of possibility he could be in that over the 30 goal mark by the time the Olympic break hits on Wednesday night. You wanted to make sure that we park some time here for Brock Nelson as the play just continues.
Yeah. He gets 3 goals against Toronto to kick off the road trip, and then picks up a point in the remainder of that difficult trip where, the top of the lineup had mixed results. I think that Brock Nelson, though, was an exception to that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
He looked engaged, and honestly too, going back to my little shout out of Anna Chushkin too, I think that he's been engaged coming out of this Canada road trip as well. And I just wanted to point out there was a stat. It's obviously fluctuated since it came out, but since the new year, Brock Nelson was among the top scorers in the league, and Cole Caulfield holds that with 13 goals since January 1st, but Brock Nelson's right behind him at 12. And so to say that he's playing some of his best hockey ahead of the Olympic break is important to note, because I think he started the year a little bit stagnant and the fan base was reacting to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not familiar with the Avs and you haven't checked back in on Brock Nelson, you should probably know that was premature panic. And Brock Nelson, being a multi-time 30-goal scorer in his career, this is the pace of play that he typically plays at. And I mean, I'd even wonder, how does this compare to some of his past seasons with the Islanders? Because this has just been sustained pressure offensively. And even when the power play has shown signs of life, he's been at the center of it in some way. He's working extremely hard. We always loved his play on the defensive side of the puck going back to the beginning of the year. You talk about a well-rounded player like Devon Toews, and no one's questioning his Olympic spot on Team Canada, right? I think you have to talk about Brock Nelson really similarly.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it a few times that, Megan, I think this is a guy that's going to get some Selke votes at the end of the year. I'm not saying he's going to win. I just think he's going to get some Selke votes. And, something Jared Bednar has been really adamant about when it comes to Brock Nelson is, we ask Jared about Brock Nelson. He doesn't even mention the production. He doesn't really talk about the goal scoring. And he mentions, and I think something that is overlooked a lot, because I do believe that there was an expectation that he was going to come in and he's a 30 goal scorer, and they're picking him up to just fill the net and provide that secondary wave of scoring. But this is a guy who's been very good away from the puck from day one. joining Colorado. And I think did you just mention that someone called him a role player?
I didn't on the show. I
Okay.
told Jesse this before it, and I feel bad keying in on one person's comment
like
on the internet.
Right. But
we need to say it because this came up over this weekend. This is a recent tweet that I received, and I didn't want to like quote retweet them because I have a platform and it wouldn't be fair to sick everyone on him. So I won't specifically say who, but someone was still complaining about Brock Nelson being named to Team USA. And they were putting him in this category with JT Miller, Vinny Trocheck as, like what good are role players when you're looking at the talent across you on Team Canada? Brock Nelson?
Right. And like that's the part that I wanted to point out. And I'm gonna flip that into like a positive, because it's sit there and it's like, okay, let's say he is a role player.
All roles.
Right. That's a really high-end, high-skilled role player. And I guess if that's how you want to classify him, that he has, the qualities and traits of a role player, yeah, that's a role player I want on my team. A role player who's going to score 35 goals in a season and be
easy,
dynamic in the offensive zone. Yeah, I'll take that role player. And like, it's funny because I think Brock Nelson, part of what Team USA probably likes so much about what he brings is that he is a skilled player that puts pucks in the net, but isn't afraid of the hard work, being physical, going to the front of the net, being hard to play against along the wall. And what does Jared Bednar say all the time? He's big, he's long, and he plays with that not edge, but like uses his size when he plays. So hey, if that's what you want to call a role player, yes, Team USA is probably very happy to have a role player like Brock Nelson heading to the Olympics.
I'm thinking about it, right? Role player, yes. PK specialist, also your second line center behind only Nathan McKinnon.
Right.
Got it. Also on your top power play unit, role player. And you look at the way he utilizes his length, because he is not a wrecking ball on the ice like Nichushkin, but he is the cleanup crew. Like, he is that second layer of support, if not first on the forecheck. And they've really found a great rhythm, him and Nichushkin specifically, and how they can both be the same type of threat, and they just kind of, alternate whether it's the net front threat. Sometimes it's both of them too, which has been really hard to contend with, because then the net front guy has to decide, is he going to battle with Nichushkin? Is he going to battle with Nelson? And one of those is acting as a screen otherwise. And so it's just been so hard to contain both of those two together. It's not to take away from what Brock Nelson is doing in his own right, because I don't think he was really described as a player that posed that kind of a threat in battling for pucks. And I think he's kind of stepped that up. He's just so engaged. And it, to me, directly translates to some of the offensive success that he's having as well. And I think it boils down to finding a rhythm and chemistry with how to work with Nichushkin and seeing, okay, those are his strengths as a player. He has a similar toolkit. It can look a little bit different, but it can also be similar at times. I just think they've really figured out how that works timing wise.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's been so much of Brock Nelson's, let's say, the change, the difference between when he got here and where he is now. I think he's more comfortable than he's been at any point in his time with the Avs. And I also think, I just think this is among the most comfortable he's looked just playing in his career. And I think it's because what you're just saying, like, they're finding the role that fits for him. And I don't remember if you specifically talked about this in the summer with him, or because I know we talked about it with Ross Colton, like, they're building a little bit around Brock Nelson. Like, they're shaping that second line around, hey, he's our play driver. How do we put our play driver in position to be successful?
When you think about it, the only team he'd ever known, right? He's pulled away from them, comes to Colorado newly. He's got a young family, picks up and moves in the middle of the season. So, like, finding chemistry with your teammates is part of that. It's a real thing that I think took some time for Brock Nelson. And now he's at a place too where there have been different players that he's played with now through this point that he continues to have success with. So I think some of that too is, to your point, like finding his role, and then starting to build chemistry with Valentushkin, who's more of a mainstay on his line, has benefited him in a huge way.
Mm-hmm.
There was something else that slipped my mind. I was hoping it would come to me before I finished.
Let me pull up this comment here, because I think this is so true. Team USA will run a third line of Boldy, Nelson, Thompson, and it will be torturous to play against. Like that's teams like this, like Olympic tournaments, all-star teams, stuff like that. Like, it's sometimes hard, because again, we just talked about the fact like Brock Nelson needed to find his role here, needed to figure out where he fit in the lineup, in the locker room, all of that. And like, I think sometimes it's hard for guys, for teams like Team USA, Team Canada to plug all that in and have it all work in just a handful of games. But yeah, I think Brock Nelson could be a guy that if they Team USA puts those combinations together right, he could be a real problem for other teams, the later you go into the tournament.
Yeah, I don't think too, like the rest of the league is undervaluing the threat that is Brock Nelson. It commands a lot of respect that he is playing 2C on the Colorado Avalanche. It's how competitive the Avs are, and obviously their track record of success. Everybody else is aware of what that is. So I think, that outward external criticism of him making the roster doesn't really line up with how I think the rest of the league views him.
Well, and yep, same thing just happened to me. It just fell right out of my brain.
I feel so bad too. I really liked what I had in my head cooking there a second ago. I still can't remember it, by the way.
Well, the show's going to end and you'll remember it immediately.
Oh, that's great timing.
We'll just go live again.
Yeah, we'll go live
to get your thought out. But no, I was just going to, I remember what I was going to say. But, like Brock Nelson was a guy that when he wasn't playing with the Avs, he was the center that the Islanders would deploy to play opposite Nathan MacKinnon. So like, this is a guy that, again, teams know from his time with the Islanders that he, was a really responsible, smart player. And I'm with you now, just with the Avs, seeing the fact that he can play in this role and do it so effectively, and be a guy on their top power play unit that can be a positive on a power play unit that has been disappointing. I'm with you. I think in the same way that you hear, Rick Bowness on the TNT panel, whatever that was, a month and a half ago, saying, coaches around the league do not underrate Artturi Lehkonen. Like, they know exactly what to expect. I imagine it's very similar with Brock Nelson.
Yeah. He also, you want to talk about like strategies to containing Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar. He'll understand that really well from a pretty up close and personal teammate aspect.
For sure.
I still think Canada has the edge, just to be so clear here. I'm just sick of people disrespecting Brock Nelson.
Yeah. I don't, I believe as of last week, Canada was actually still positive money to win gold. And I don't know, I might have to get in and put some action on that, just because I'm with you. I think it's far from it being locked up. It's going to Canada, but I just look at all the rosters, and to me, that's the best roster.
Yeah,
for sure. And I also think you've got a lot of highly motivated Canadians who haven't had a chance to go to the Olympics in a long time. This will be their first time going. This will probably be Crosby's last time going. He's going to be the captain. Everyone's going to want to make sure that counts for something. And I do, this is just me, Megan, and maybe if you poll the players on Team USA, they feel different. I do just think that Olympics, international best on best, I do think that stuff means more to Canadian players and European players to represent your nation at that level. I do just think that means more to those athletes, as we're like, what I'm super excited about and really, really proud of going to these Olympics. Colorado has the most athletes going to the games than any other state in the US. There's 30 athletes from Colorado going to the Winter Games. And like, I think that's awesome, because we're Colorado. It's just little old us out here.
Yeah,
you know
it's
what
just
I mean?
Little old us.
And so like, I think that's really cool. But and what I mean by that is like, I just think that those Canadian players are more motivated to get to the, to represent the Canadian flag at the Olympics. I don't think it's really a thing. And this is just me speaking personally. Like, I just don't really think it's a huge thing that's talked about here coming up, like, through like the USA Hockey, like that's like the governing body here. I just don't think it's as big of a deal for players in the US as it is for players in Canada. So I just think I think the Canadian players are going to be fired up, and I just think their team's a little bit better.
Speaking of playing for your country,
Uh-oh.
Parker Kelly
okay, yes.
has been playing out of his mind lately.
Yes, playing for wiener dog owners everywhere.
Continued that success on the Canada road trip. It was kind of a tough segue to make there, but I didn't want to end this show without making mention of getting the most out of Parker Kelly.
Yep.
I don't know if people expected him to have this kind of production because he hadn't previously. And I don't just mean because he's topping career high in goals and points. His body of work before this in Ottawa was more so limited.
Yep.
And so the full seasons you even have to go off of are few. And then even that, you look at everything you appreciate about his game, the work he does on the penalty kill, and you're just not left feeling like, oh, well, we just need to get even more out of this guy. But somehow he found it.
Yeah.
And it's just been great because this has not been the Avs' best road trip. They needed depth contributions because the area of the lineup that you typically expect the goals to come from, it was not coming at will the way that you're used to seeing from the Avs. And that's even bigger, outside of the power play for a second. So it just made depth scoring that much more important. And I'm happy that it's Parker Kelly at the forefront of it all.
Well, and it's a shame because in 2 of those games, he was also scoring like big timely goals.
Yes.
Like not just like finding some consistency in it, but like, hey, we really need a goal right now. And he's going out and like getting and there was a game where you and I were talking about it where it's like, man, you really need to simplify, just pucks to the net, follow him there, crash the front. And like, that's where he's finding these goals, is by just doing all of the little things right, of getting to the difficult areas, battling for pucks, winning net front battles, and dunking pucks home. Like he's just, it's not just that he's scoring or that he's producing, he's doing it in the way that you want it done.
Yeah, and I think building on that, another 4-game point streak from Jack Drury, kind of alongside some of that success, with a goal and 3 assists over this road trip. One of those goals against Toronto, and I honestly find like what he's doing offensively kind of similar to what I'm seeing out of Parker Kelly, at least from the goal scoring perspective. But in terms of setting up his teammates, and Parker Kelly kind of talked about this in the piece that I did recently, but. Yep. I think Jack Drury, like going back,
you should go check out guerrillasports.net.
You guys should. There's lots of good insight. But Jack Drury's game, we've talked about it a little bit with the conversation around the Avs' need for a 3C, and I just wanted to drive home in that pod we did the other day. You're really happy on other teams if Jack Drury is your 3C. And I think he just continues to bolster that point around the production. It's there. You're just talking about what you want to see the Avs go pursue a playoff run with, and it's a different conversation. But like Jack Drury continues to still contribute on the offensive side of the puck, and like a Parker Kelly, he's really good on the defensive side of it. He's huge in winning draws on the PK. He works his butt off. Like in the games where I felt like the Avs did not have their legs under them and they just looked like they weren't fully engaged, I did not feel that about Jack Drury and Parker Kelly, and I just appreciate that about them as players.
Well, and so let's also go back to, again, 2022, just because that's the most recent cup that we have to go off of. And, Megan, like you are going to get into, certain spots in the playoffs where you need a goal from Parker Kelly. You need a goal from a guy like Ross Colton. And, I think back to...
You need a goal from Darren Helm.
You need a goal from Darren Helm. And you need a goal from Nico Sturm. There's the Game 6 example.
Yep.
And then there's also the Game 4 example in the Cup final where the Avs are behind in the third period and Nico Sturm and Andrew Cogliano, hard work in front of the net, battling, find a way to get a puck to go to pull the Avs even. And that eventually sets up the Nazem Kadri overtime winner. Nobody knew it was in play. But like, those were both huge moments on that run where you needed your depth guys to contribute. And again, people always hear me say it. You're not expecting your depth guys to contribute every night. If your depth guys contributed every night, they're not your depth guys. They're your top guys. But you need to see that they can do it and do it the right way. I think Parker Kelly is showing that if the Avs are going on a run here, I would bet my entire mortgage that you're going to get at least one meaningful Parker Kelly goal along the way.
Oh, I feel that. I actually bookmark this in your little brain. Sorry, your little brain isn't little.
Jeez, wow.
It's
bookmark this in your stupid little
tiny
brain.
little brain for a future playoff run.
Yes.
When Parker Kelly has a big moment.
I'm with you.
Has a big little moment.
Big little moment. My wife sent me this thing on Instagram over the weekend there's this girl like using an accent to dampen what you're saying. Like, oh, I didn't get it done. And like trying to like saying it funny to like be like something serious that you don't want to be too serious about. Add the accent. Yeah,
just add the word little. It's a great idea.
Oh boy. Oh man. All right. Do you have anything else?
Probably. I'll remember it later. No, that was good. It was important that we address Parker Kelly.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think the play recently has just shown like, yeah, this is a guy that I think if we ever see Logan O'Connor this season, Kelly, O'Connor, Drury line, I think could be a handful for teams come playoff time. That's assuming you get OC back and you get a third line center and all that stuff. But
I felt that line deserved a better fate. Obviously, the whole team coming out of the Dallas series, but I thought that, especially being newer to playoff hockey, in totality among them, even though Logan O'Connor like won a cup with the Avs, but his own playoff experience was still like pretty limited.
Yep.
All that to say, I think they deserved a better fate. They worked really hard in that series. They got beat up on really badly. And so I imagine that is fuel and information that they have moving forward. That I think you're going to see an even different version of that line. If we get to see it again, I think we just need to get some clarity on Logan O'Connor. And then we can dream on it, because I liked what I saw against Dallas, and I think they have more to give.
I'm with you. I am with you. That's going to do it for today, folks. The hell is today? Monday?
Sure is.
Sure is. We got Avs Red Wings tonight. Assuming a practice day tomorrow. And then one more game before the break. Avs Sharks on Wednesday. I'm actually heading out to Radio Row in the Super Bowl with our Guerilla Sports team here for the rest of the week. So Megan will be taking you home the rest of the way before the Olympic break. And then we'll figure something out for Friday for the pod.
Yes.
And all of that stuff. But that's going to do it for this episode. Guerilla Sports Off Ice. Like I said, make sure you guys are tuning in. All the great post-game content you normally expect will be coming your way. She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. We got Mark Robinson back there today, making it all happen. Make sure to drop some love for Mark in the chat. First, Guerilla Sports Off Ice pod. Ran it all. Nailed it. Absolutely crushed it. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We will talk to you later. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.